Hello everybody, today we're just doing a simple repair. It's kind of a goofy area. It's above a water heater. I guess they had a leaking copper pipe, so the plumber had to open it up. So they called us in here to patch it all in. So we have to work off a ladder here, reach over, fun. But we're going to have to do around this pipe here. Since the pipe's already connected, we might have to do two pieces of drywall, one on the bottom part of the pipe and then one on top. Easy enough. First things first, let's get this all plastic. It's going to be hard because it's going to go behind there. So I'm trying to just keep it minimal so I don't get a bunch of mess behind the water heater because there's no way for me to get really to it to access. Don't mind the barking dog in someone's house, like always. With these jobs, I'm working on the job, making the videos. Let's go ahead and get this cleaned up, squared up a little bit. I'm going to try to get some wood backing in here. This area looks like it's been patched before. So I'm going to try to get some wood backing on the right-hand side since we already have something on the left-hand side. And then I'm just going to cut, just looks like a 6-inch strip of sheetrock. And we are in a garage by water here, so yes, it's 5/8 sheetrock. They usually do 5/8 in garages. So let's go ahead and get this cut out. It's going to be a tight, goofy area, but we'll make it work. Tight areas like this, you're not going to get the mud perfect, but you just work with it until you get it to look nice and clean. I know a lot of plumbing, they always do these to go over it, but it doesn't have one here. Is usually do the drywall first, then you put that cover on it. So we just finish it real tight around the pipe. If there's any gap around the pipe after you do the drywall, you can fill it in with caulking, no big deal. But we're just going to do it nice and tight. The razor blade's going to be tight getting in here. Just finish cutting up this area. Some debris they left behind. Pretty easy. Got it cut out, not deep enough. The nail right here, I'm going to have to pull that nail. But first, let me get this backing piece in since I already have it. Just using a 1x2. It's kind of a tight area, so that's why I like to use these 1x2s so I get in there. It's really tight. It's hard for me to get it, so I'm going to put a screw in the 1x2 just on the edge, just so I can pull that 1x2 closer to the sheetrock. So when I put a screw in it, it can actually catch, make sure it's flush. Now I can pull the 1x2 close to me with that screw I put in it, pull it towards you. You want to get at least 2 or 3 screws in the backing and then back out that screw. Get it screwed in, pull out your backer screw. Alright, easy enough. So now I'm just going to cut a little piece of 5/8 sheetrock. Like I said, I can't put the whole piece because this pipe's in the way, so I'm just going to cut it the size, and then I'm going to just split it right here halfway. So the piece goes there, and then I'm going to notch the drywall on the bottom part and then notch it there so it fits around this round pipe, because there's no way of hanging the sheetrock one solid piece without splitting the piece of sheetrock. Doesn't matter, it's all going to get taped and mudded anyway. Once you got your piece cut, you could notch it on the top piece and just kind of put it in there and then maybe piece it in here. But here I'm just going to splice it, so I'm going to take the center of the pipe and then I'm just going to score the sheetrock so I know where to snap it. It's also easier if you have a pencil to mark it. So now this is still tight here, so I'm going to have to cut some off the side. But I know I'm going to have to notch right here and notch there. I'm going to mark it. And basically I'm going to notch this drywall there so the pipe fits in that notch. Go ahead and whittle it down. You can use a keyhole saw or razor blade, but I'm going to cut this down over here because I don't want the mess falling behind the water heater because it's such a tight area. So I'm going to cut it in the trash area where they have plastic, so I don't make a big mess. You see, it kind of notched it out, just a little part like that. Get it under there, push it up. Alright. Looks good for me. Like I said, it ain't gonna be perfect, so you're just trying to piece it in really. Then your other part that you cut off on top, go ahead and cut that down to size. Cut it down to size. Alright? Good enough, honestly, it's good enough. Because I'm going to tape and mud this whole thing. It's such a tight area. I'm 7 feet off ground, reaching over a water heater doing it. Go ahead and put screws in it, tighten it up. Plenty of screws. Then we're going to scrape the area, we're going to tape it, and I'm going to first coat. I'm using a hot mud. I'm using a hot mud because I have to finish this in one trip. If you're doing this by yourself in your own project, just use a regular joint compound. Joint compounds have to dry overnight, but they're easier to work with than the hot mud. This I'm reaching over the water heater. What you think is an easy patch turns into a fun job. But yeah, let's go ahead and scrape it with our 6-inch knife. Always scrape areas before you tape it, just to get any goobers on it so the tape sits nice and flat. If there's any goobers, anything sticking out when you go to mud, it's going to hit those and create chatters. This spray glue I'm using is optional. This is just so the tape will stick to it and hold. It's nothing to do with the necessity of holding the tape. It's just to tack it up because the old wall here, the old sheetrock, is dusty, so it gives it an extra tape hold until I can get some mud on it. Just tape up all your seams around your pipe. Like I said, it don't matter if you have gaps. You're going to tape and mud all this anyways solid. You just work with what you got here. It ain't going to be perfect because of the tight area above a water heater. Use 5/8 sheetrock, which is code, fire resistant sheetrock. Taped a bunch of times around all the gaps because you want no gaps around pipes. Especially in garages, you want everything nice and tight and sealed up. Sealed up. If you have gaps around pipes in a garage, you need to seal them up. Push all the tape down. Now you put away your hanging tools. We hung a basic patch, fought with it around this pipe. But once it's all mudded, you're going to see it's going to be a nice finish. But now it's ready for first coat. Like I said, I'm going to do a first coat with a 5-minute quick set mud that I have to mix in my pan. I don't need a lot of mud here, so I'm just going to mix like less than a quarter of a pan of mud just to get this patch coated pretty heavy. I'm just going to coat this with my 6-inch knife. The mud's fairly heavy. I want nice thick mud. I don't want it dripping everywhere, so it's thick mud. You just push it in there. You're just kind of packing it inside that gap. Leave it kind of heavy. You're just going to work around this pipe. Work around it. It's a tough, tight area, so you want to get it really coated pretty heavy. You coat it heavy enough, you might get away with doing a slick out, then turn on texture. Since it's just in a garage, an existing texture isn't the best right here. Got the mud on, the feather the edges. Feather the edges, working around these other pipe over here. And I mixed a quarter of a pan. It's not even used a tenth of that. So wasting some materials here. This area over to the right is kind of ugly. Nothing to it. I'm going to let that set up. Just like my other videos, when I manipulate and slick out the hot mud, I'm going to let this 5 minutes set up, slick it out. I'm going to leave it kind of heavy, so when I do slick it out, it's almost going to be like a second coat. We're going to take off the extra material. then turn around and texture it. Alright, let it set up. It's a 5 minutes, so it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to fully set up. Still probably needs a couple more minutes. Just going to let it fully set up, slick it out with the sponge. And it's a newer house. Like you'll see a lot of my videos, they have the skip trowel texture. It's really common in these tract houses out here. Houses that are 10, 20 years old. All the newer tract homes out here have this skip trowel texture. Alright. Hot mud is still damp, but it's dry and setting up. So this is a perfect time to slick it out. Sponge, 6-inch knife. This tight area, so sorry. Just trying to show you how to do patching. I'm swiveling around that pipe. I'm also pushing down. It's getting that mud pushed in any gap. Mostly getting rid of these edges. I'm kind of going over it with the wet sponge. It pretty much looks nice just by sponging over it while it's still damp. But I'm going to take it, the 6-inch knife, and trowel it away. I'm taking off the extra material. I'm manipulating it. They call this slick out technique. This is only done with hot muds. You really can't do this with a joint compound. Joint compounds have to dry overnight, and then you have to sand them, then follow through with the second coat. This is only a hot mud technique. You can go every which way. If something looks deep, needs mud, just follow it through with that extra mud on your knife. You can turn around and use that mud and fill in any chatters, gaps, any areas that need filled. That's pretty much it. But I'm going to go over it again with the sponge. Get rid of the edges. The mud edges are most important. That looks pretty dang good. I can tell you right now that I don't need to second coat it. If it still looks deep and bad, you're going to need a second coat. But this is good enough right here for texture. So I'm just going to let my damp sponge areas dry a little bit and set up. Give it a few more minutes to fully set up, and then I'm going to just follow it through with that skip trowel. It's not going to be perfect. I can only get so good behind all these pipes, tight area. So we're just going to make it look presentable and nice. Try to make it look like a repair has never been done. That's the whole goal with doing these repairs. To make it look like it's never been patched. So let it set up fully. The mud's setting up, but I like it to be nice and strong. I don't like a bunch of water on it. And that way the texture goes on. Texture using a smaller knife, like a 4-inch knife, but I'm using my 6-inch knife. I'm just going to start in here. Just kind of skip it. I'm just letting the knife glide over the surface. Skip trowel. Type of mud to use, you just use a thin down joint compound. I don't texture with hot muds. Around these pipes. So it's hard to make it perfect because you're fighting around tight areas. So just getting it as best as possible. If you don't have a skip trowel, just leave it smooth. Just maybe do another coat over it and just leave it smooth. It's good enough smooth, you know, you got it all sealed up, it's good to go. Texture is just a cosmetic. Now here we have textures on every different job. I'll go to the one down the street and they'll have a different type of texture. So out here, unfortunately, we have a lot of different textures we need to go in and match. Most areas I know, especially East Coast, they do just smooth, everything's smooth. But out here we have textures, skip trowels, Santa Fe's, knockdowns, orange peels, splatters, popcorn, crow's foot, you name it. Depends on what neighborhood you go in, how old the neighborhood is. These newer houses, they do these skip trowels. Skip troweled up. I like to go past my patch. It helps blend it into the existing. Makes the patch look nice and big. Everything feathers in nicely if you go past the patch. Around the pipe edge and get tighter however you need to. Pretty basic. face plate here, I'm going to push back. Stand back, take a look at it. Looks good from here. Got down below, behind the water heater, pretty good. Patch, so I'll never know if it's ever been patched once they primer and paint this. Pretty simple. Hope you liked it. Pain in the butt, working above a water heater on a ladder. Water heater on top of a pedestal. I'm on top of a ladder just to reach over to get this patch that a plumber cut out. Yep, fun, fun, fun. Lucky me. Yeah, so we fought around the pipe, got it done. Tight work area. Just double check everything. If you need to wipe stuff down, use a wet, clean rag. Just wipe everything down, and then just let the texture dry. Always let it dry 24 hours. I always recommend doing a light sanding with 150 grit to 220 grit sandpaper, primer than paint. This is behind a water heater, so who cares about all that? But if you want to strive for perfection, always sand and primer, always.